Hi, everyone. Jessica Brown here, clinical nutritionist, Stanford certified compassion educator and teacher. And I have been in the business for over 25 years now, consulting with thousands of people. I wrote the book, The Loving Diet, in 2016, and I just wrote a new book for people who are on GLP-1 medications called Beyond the Shot, Inner Work for Lasting Success on Weight Loss Medications. I thought that I would share a personal story with you that I wrote in the book that talks about my struggle story, one of many struggle stories that I've had, actually, one of probably hundreds of struggle stories that I've had. And it's important to take this step to understand what your struggle story is if you're on a GLP-1 medication, because these medications, for as powerful as they are, can't actually change what it is that you believe about yourself. So we've done a tremendous amount of healing on a GLP-1 medication. You might feel like your body's really transformed on the outside, but we need to look at what's happening on the inside and transform that as well. I have found that traditional therapy doesn't always do that. In fact, self-compassion, which is the power of your own heart, is something that you can learn to do. And I found it to be the most effective way to change any beliefs that you're still holding true. And that helps your GLP-1 journey. So if you're feeling good and feeling perhaps hopeful for the first time in many years, it's the perfect time to start looking at what happened to you. Because what happened to you determines what it is that you believe about yourself. And often those beliefs are still active even though they are outdated. Okay? So I want to explain a little bit about my struggle story and why it might be useful for you to write out your struggle story. I'm going to read a little passage from the book about something that happened to me. I moved to Florida in the 3rd grade. Like most of our neighbors, we had a pool in our backyard. Wearing a swimsuit was almost a year-round occurrence, which I quickly grew to despise. After my parents' divorce a few years prior, I had sought solace from the pain of missing my mother in food and transformed from a normal-size kid into a chubby kid. Living in a larger body became a significant issue as I continued to soothe my feelings with food. Every time I put on a swimsuit at 9, I felt profound unhappiness about my larger body. I can still recall wishing I could wear a bikini instead of a utilitarian one piece that fit my body better. I remember how much I liked eating and how it became the grounding rod to help me adjust to living in a new state and all the unfamiliar things that came with it. One day, after eating an entire Big Mac, I became confused about why I was still hungry. I recall sitting in a McDonald's with my twin sister and my stepmother after casually polishing off a Big Mac hamburger, asking myself silently, how can you possibly still be hungry? This was one of the initial setups for struggles surrounding my weight. My struggle story from that time was that the deep unhappiness I felt with having a larger body meant life was punishing me by making it 10 times harder for me to lose weight than it would be for a naturally thin person. Life back then was dodgy, and for some reason, I deserved the pain I was experiencing. To make sense of my struggle, I made a sweeping decision at 9 years old that nobody was coming to save me. And food helped my pain. Looking back on that now, I consider it a small miracle that I figured out a coping mechanism for pain at 9 years old. Unfortunately for me, I just happened to have the genetics that made that route harder because along with my childhood sorrow, I would be deeply unhappy with my body that couldn't eat everything it wanted and stay slim. So you probably have similar stories. And we all do. I've actually not met anybody who doesn't have a struggle story. And I think that we just pass off our stories as they're just stories from childhood. And we forget that hard things that happen to us create a story or a narrative and hard things that happen to us, in order for us to make sense of them, we decide things about ourselves. It helps us put it into perspective. Oh, you mean I was just a chubby kid? Life must be punishing me. Or, oh, I was an unhappy, chubby kid, deeply sad. It must be that nobody's going to come save me and I need to figure it out. So we have things that happen to us, and then we have things that we decided in response to the things that happen to us. I have found that self-compassion is the most effective way to transform untrue things that we think about ourselves that are actually still alive and well, even though they might be tucked away in a corner and not used very often. But the time that we do use them is when we encounter struggle. We tend to revert back to old beliefs that are often not true, but that are still fueling how we decide things about ourselves today. It decides our value about, oh, should I try for this job? Or how we partner up in relationships, what we are worthy of. And it's so important to take a look at these things, especially while we're on a GLP-1 medication, because number one, we have the time and we have the space and we have the mental space, especially, we have more confidence. So it's the best time to start looking at past things that happened to us so that in the future, when we encounter struggle, and we will have the tools to work with them and to overcome them and not decide false beliefs about ourselves in response to them. Okay? So that's the two-part process of our struggle story is, number one, get a pen and paper out and write down what happened to you. And then number two, figure out what it is that you decided about yourself as a result of the things that happened to yourself. Sometimes these things, they just clear right on their own just by bringing it to our own attention. Sometimes it takes longer. I know that for me, I had whole constellations of beliefs that tend to circle around one primary belief. So for me, it was about being unlovable. And I had 5 or 6 other unlovable, untrue beliefs that sort of created a constellation, and it dictated everything. It dictated how I decided I was going to put myself out in the world, who I was going to become friends with, who was going to be my partner, and what role were they going to serve in my life. This is how important these belief systems are. And what we know for GLP-1 users is that the more emotional support we do and get as we are going through a GLP-1 experience, the better outcomes we have as a result of that. So, what is your struggle story? It pays to just take a little bit of time with pen and paper and write it down. Take 10 minutes, 15 minutes to write out what it is that happened to you and then what it is that you believe as a result of them. I'll do more videos that talk a little bit more about reparenting and self-compassion to help transform them, or you can actually just pick up the book because it's available everywhere books are sold. But I'd love to hear about you. What did you discover after doing the struggle story exercise? Take care.